All right, here we go. It's book reading number 4 for Life is Magic, my new book. Here's the back with a little post-it note on it. Sorry. And if you're new to my channel, you may want to start with the first book reading, which is obviously the first chapter, so that this one will make a little more sense. So there's 3 previous book readings so far, and today we're starting with chapter 5, which is called Justin's Middle Finger Salute. Justin's Middle Finger Salute. So here we go. All right. A quick recap. I was born in 1971. My brother Justin, the apparent mystery tickler, was born in 1974 but died just after childbirth. My brother Steve was born in 1976 and, like our brother Justin, was several months premature. I recall my father once saying that Steve was as small as his hand as a baby. After his birth, Steve remained in the hospital on an incubator for many months. His survival was uncertain, but he eventually pulled through. When my parents were told Steve had cerebral palsy and would likely never walk, Mom was initially overwhelmed. She recalls this feeling lasting for 2 days, at the end of which she resolved that she would do everything necessary to make life as good as possible for us, whatever might come, and never look back. I think that was the primary challenge she accepted in this incarnation, to be a lifelong caregiver. She agrees. And somehow my brother also chose a challenging incarnation with physical limitations. I don't know how he does it, but he is truly joyful in a way that defies simple explanation, and he grasps things at a deeper level than most of the people I have ever met. As mentioned, my parents split in 1980. With Mom as the anchor, Steve has managed life with CP for more than 40 years. He uses a wheelchair and has a mild learning disability, but is otherwise smart, funny, deeply kind, and very perceptive. Steve, Mom, and I are all strong empaths. Oh, where we go. We quickly perceive the feelings and thoughts of others, since these are simply energies in the air. We intuit the intent of others quickly upon meeting them. You cannot snow us, or not for long. Mom's consistent efforts to help Steve become more independent have been successful, and our early years together as a family were packed with laughter and love despite inevitable struggles and rough patches. Around the same time as my 1997 tickling incident, Steve began to demonstrate an ability to communicate with the other side as well. Mom started getting stuff too. It was as if we were all switched on within the same time period, even though we were in different phases in our individual lives. Since then, I've heard many psychics use the term activation to refer to the moment when they or people they know first became aware of a greater reality. Perhaps we're indeed each awakened on a predetermined date at a point in life when we've accumulated experiences and learned enough to be ready for the next step forward towards a greater purpose or a mission. This is apparently what it is to be a light worker. I first heard that phrase around 6 or 7 years ago after my first book was done. A local painter whose works I had purchased for my walls read some of it and came to that conclusion, meaning she read some of the first book. I resist codified language, since that is the path of religions, but we necessarily work within the limits of the spoken word. My simple understanding of light workers is that they are souls who volunteer to incarnate on a particular planet like Earth at a specific time like now in large numbers for the purposes of raising the overall energetic vibration of the planet by bringing as much love and light towards enlightenment as possible. Many psychics I follow say it is a multi-generational plan, which began with members of the baby boomer generation, followed by Generation X, of which I am a member, and then on to millennials, Gen Z, and subsequent generations as the third and fourth waves onward. From the nonlinear time perspective of spirit, which I don't really understand, many of the drastic global events of the last several years, including COVID-19, rising authoritarian governance, and massive climate changes and environmental disruption, were foreseen well in advance, so our higher selves, along with guides and angels, came up with a plan of how to give Earth a better shot at survival. Apparently, there have been other such attempts here too, as with the fabled civilizations of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Avalon, but none were successful. Spirit's current plan appears to be to provide an overabundance of light workers who work hand in hand with archangels like like Mother Mary, Michael, Raphael, Ariel, etc., and other powerfully positive spiritual beings, including prophets like Jesus and Muhammad, to lift Earth so that it is less hospitable to lower energies who embody selfishness, hatred, bitterness, jealousy, greed, and other standard deadly sins. If Earth's vibration is raised, then lower vibrations have more trouble thriving, and more good can be accomplished towards a more abundant, cooperative, peaceful, and sustainable future. Lower vibrational beings would also be less likely to reincarnate here in the future, as the energy would no longer match the raised resonance of the planet. Such souls would have to choose a less spiritually evolved planet or realm in which to roam. So, in some sense, we are in a semi-secret existential war between light and dark, and darkness knows they are being gradually squeezed out, which is also why there is so much irrationality and seeming madness playing out in political and social spheres, as if the world is cracking up. But if you're reading this, there's a strong likelihood you're already a light worker, whether you choose to think of it in those terms or not, and you realize that positivity and joy go a long way in shattering blackness. Light will win here. Earth will be lifted. And then there's a couple of dashes to indicate a slight change of subject within the chapter itself. And here we go. Today, my brother Steve is a non-practicing psychic medium who regularly receives spirit visitors. The majority are departed members of our extended family, including our deceased brother Justin, who acts as a helpful guide. In their interactions, Steve is often given privileged and predictive information about near future events of consequence to the immediate and larger family. At times, this has been crucial and also deeply comforting. Steve doesn't give private readings or go out of his way to contact the other side. Steve says that his interactions with spirit are more mundane than we might imagine, and sometimes very brief, though they're always inherently profound from my viewpoint, simply because they happen at all. Steve describes them as visions. My buddy Shay is here. Shay the cat. Steve describes them as visions. When a spirit comes to call, he usually sees the visitor or visitors and himself in his mind's eye. They can talk, interact, and even touch, just like any people spending time in the same room. The encounters are often concise, then the spirit departs. In all instances I can recall him sharing, Steve is standing free of his wheelchair, as he will of course be again when we cross over and revert to pure energy / consciousness and have the option to choose to present a physical form in our interactions or not. We apparently have at least that much ability to manipulate our own energy in spirit. Then yet again, a few dashes to indicate a slight change of topic within the chapter. In September 2014, around the time that my first book arrived, Steve had a minor medical procedure under anesthesia at a downtown Buffalo hospital. It should have been routine, but unfortunately it veered off course. Our brother Justin on the other side helped him get through. Excuse me. On prep day, Mom helped Steve clean his cozy little apartment located within a local senior citizens housing complex. The other residents love him, and most know him by his given first name, Sammy, after my father's father. Steve is his middle name. While in the bedroom, Mom picked up a picture of our paternal grandparents and asked them to watch over him the next day. Samuel and Josephine have been deceased for nearly 20 years now. Since passing, Grandma and Grandpa Falgiano have occasionally visited Steve in spirit, usually accompanied by Justin, the ringleader. Mom took Steve to the hospital the next morning. Before he went into the operating room, a nurse prepared an IV, but her aim was poor. As Steve's hand started to turn blue, he politely noted, "I think you've got the wrong hole." She apologetically corrected the drip. We laughed about this later, though it wasn't funny at the time. Maybe it was even a small warning sign. It certainly didn't help Steve relax. As he was being wheeled down the hall, he felt nervous and emotional. A tear welled up in his eye. On cue, Justin appeared to him, in blue medical scrubs and a surgical mask. Justin grabbed the right handlebar of the gurney while the nurses pulled from the left side. "I'm right here. It's okay," Justin said. Only Steve could see him, of course. The humorous touch of Justin in scrubs made Steve chuckle and feel more at ease before the anesthetic kicked in. Justin has the right touch. When they began the procedure, the doctor sensed that Steve was uncomfortable and still partly conscious, so they gave him more anesthetic. Unfortunately, Steve's heart rate slowed too much too fast. He went under very deep. After much time in the waiting room, Mom wondered why the procedure was taking longer than expected. Justin came to Steve while he was unconscious. Steve may have been between realms at the time. Justin told him, "It's not your time," and sent Steve back to his body. Justin was there when Steve needed him, as he had promised. After Steve successfully woke from the procedure, he and by extension, Mom, felt traumatized, though they were deeply thankful he was unhurt. A few days later, Steve was recuperating at home when Justin stopped by to visit him again. To help Steve recognize him, Justin pointed to the gold cufflinks on his wrist. Then he turned around to show Steve the large initials JF, Justin Falgiano, on the back of his stylish white jacket. Gold is the purest metal in existence with a high resonant vibration of about 360 hertz. Humans resonate at about 4 to 10 hertz by comparison. It's difficult, perhaps impossible, for trickster spirits to imitate gold because their vibrations are too low, though they sometimes try and are easily revealed and dispatched, meaning that it had to be our brother Justin. It was no fake. And then this little part is in parentheses as an aside. One interesting study I read listed different resonant frequencies for different body parts. Here's a sampling. Head at 20 to 40 hertz, spine at 8 hertz, chest at 60 hertz, abdomen, shoulders, and lungs at 4 to 8 hertz, hands and arms at 20 to 70 hertz, ocular globe, i.e. eyes, and sensory organs at 60 to 90 hertz, and maxilla, i.e. upper jawbone below eye sockets, at 100 to 200 hertz, quite varied by body part. Now that's interesting that the eyes are supposedly at the highest resonant frequency, since, as this is not in the book, when I get sort of head pressure and vibrations in my third eye, my feet, I can feel presences in my whole face. So I wonder if that's a easier part part of the body as an access point for interaction with spirit, if that makes any sense. Okay, so resuming the book. When Justin visits Steve, he nearly always wears an item of gold, often a necklace, to make it clear he's the real deal from the good place. The JF touch on the back of his jacket is terrific. Justin is a ham bone like Steve, Mom, and I. He knows what makes us laugh. We love him so much. Check it on time. To help Steve get over the traumatic hospital procedure, Justin went on an exaggerated comedic rant about the poor care Steve had received. Justin could see from the shape of Justin's mouth that he was dropping F-bombs, but he couldn't actually hear any cursing. Steve wasn't sure if he was missing the words or if they were being purposely omitted, so he asked him. In reply, Justin repeated what he'd just said in a louder, even more exaggerated voice, without actually answering Steve's question, but each swear word was again absent, with silent dropouts, like when an R-rated movie is edited for family TV broadcast. broadcast. This is exactly the kind of silly, exaggerated joke Steve and I do to each other all the time for laughs. Justin is clearly one of us. Then Justin gave the hospital a double middle finger salute on Steve's behalf, though this too was censored. Steve's middle fingers were totally blurred out when he held his hands up. Justin's middle fingers were totally blurred out when he held his hands up. Steve completely cracked up. Then he told us about it in an email. And this is the email. Hi guys. Well, Justin visited about 10:30 this evening while I was in the bathroom and gave the double middle finger salute to the hospital's handling of my medical procedure. The middle fingers were blurred out, the rest of his hands showing, because there's no swearing in heaven apparently. He raised them twice, often like Roberto, meaning me, does as a joke. I laughed out loud because he was pretty animated about his negative feelings towards them. Then some angels applauded me. Wings were big and showing. After that, Justin apologized for what happened at the hospital. Not his fault, of course. Thanks, Jay. Love you guys. You've had a rough day, my buds, my mom wrote back. It should have never been like that. I will most likely speak to someone at the hospital, but I'm just pondering how to handle my quiet rant. So many points I want to make, but I know I will receive the guidance I need. Right, Justin? The next morning, Steve wrote us again about another visit. Hi, Mama and Roberto. Justin came in about 6 a.m. today with the family. Uncle Bill, Uncle Steve, Grandma and Grandpa Falgiano, even Toby, our first dog. Justin said, Ma will know how to handle this. Justin wanted to show me what happened while I was under anesthetic, while motioning to me that he'd stop the film if I needed an emotional timeout. With our deceased family members gathered around for support, Justin provided Steve with an omniscient visualization of the events at the hospital on the day of his procedure. Steve could see himself unconscious in the operating room as the doctor scrambled when his vital signs unexpectedly dropped. He witnessed their frenzy to get him stable. I was standing with Justin and was shown all the events in the hospital like an old projection movie, Steve said. It was pretty scary to see. The film showed me, you, meaning my mom, waiting in the waiting room, calling John, my mom's husband, pretty much everything. Mom wrote back, wow. Ironically, when I was cleaning your bedroom on prep day, I picked up the picture of Grandma and Grandpa, the one on your armoire, and told them to watch over you. I guess they did. She also wrote, graphic video projection is crazy. My biggest regret about yesterday is that I did not speak directly to the doctor before the procedure. I trusted him and really should have known better. I will speak to him soon, I hope, as I left word for him to call me back. Lesson learned the hard way, but thank God the angels and family took good care of you. Kisses. Indeed they did, and we are deeply grateful. All right, so then there's another partial break in this chapter. See how much is left in this chapter. And what comes after. Okay. All right. Steve's description of being shown a film of what happened at the hospital echoed several previous events I had already written down. In 2015, Mom and Steve tried acupuncture for relaxation and liked it a lot. The place they went to had a comfortable, darkened room with reclining chairs and soft music. Once Mom amused Steve because she got so mellow after they'd put the needles in her that she slumped in her chair with her arms dangling down. While down under, Mom said she could see a little cartoon film scrolling in the right corner of her eye. She didn't know why or what it meant. Steve's description of Justin's visualization of the hospital and Mom's description of the cartoon film were both similar to something I'd read about in Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. The book is a series of interviews with patients under hypnosis who recount their past life experiences. According to the interviewees, when we're in between lives and reside as disembodied souls in heaven, There are guides who help us to learn from our previous lives and to choose our next incarnation. Reincarnation is always voluntary though. No one is forced. We always have free will. That's a gift from God. In addition, Sterling Psychic Medium on YouTube claims we usually wait 80 to 100 years between Earth incarnations. Unless our lives are very short, in which case individuals usually reincarnate more quickly, but there is no one-size-fits-all scenario. To give a sense of what a future incarnation might entail, we're shown what appear to be previews on cosmic movie screens of potential existences as different kinds of beings in different bodies growing up in various places with different parents and families. Excuse me. I don't see why this couldn't include other planets and life forms too. It's like a short menu of potential future lives from which we choose. These films can be reversed and fast forwarded. We're not shown the entire history of what could be expected in the next potential existence, but we get a taste. Then we choose the body and life we wish to inhabit before actual reincarnation. I assume this is also coordinated with other members of our soul group so that we arrive at the same time with like-minded beings and loved ones from other lifetimes. It certainly feels that way based on the closeness of my immediate family, and perhaps this effort is quite extensive, as with Spirit's apparent multi-generational plan to bring light workers to Earth at this time to help lift the planet to greater peace. Naturally, the idea of viewing potential lives on film is also similar to a dream I detailed in the first book, in which I was sitting on the surface of the moon looking back on Earth. As I watched the sun move across the surface of our planet, it appeared to be on a small, freestanding projection screen. The Earth looked entirely real and three-dimensional, yet I was also aware that in some way it was just a construct. It was a glimpse behind the curtain. Further, in the surreal and brilliant 2017 David Lynch TV show Twin Peaks: The Return, a supernatural being known as the Fireman, played by 7-foot-tall actor Carl Stryken, resides in what appears like a vintage cosmic movie theater outside of normal time and space. He has the godlike ability to create beings of great purity and sends them to Earth to help combat negative cosmic entities. As the Fireman, his role is to help put out bad metaphysical fires by creating light-filled beings for counterbalance. In one episode, after observing the creation of a malevolent being named Bob, portrayed by Frank Silva, rest in peace, on his cosmic movie screen, the Fireman leaps into action. While floating high above the ground in a trance-like state, he creates a golden orb from his mind containing the main character in the show, Laura Palmer, played by Cheryl Lee. On the Fireman's movie screen, the Earth is shown rotating in black and white, as it might appear from the moon, and very much as it was in my dream. The Fireman's assistant places the Laura orb into a golden launch tube, which is pressed against the film screen. The orb travels the length of the curved tube, slips through the surface of the screen like a bubble of oxygen in water, and heads into orbit around Earth, where it will eventually descend and be born as Laura Palmer. Yes, it's pretty trippy. Okay. Then there is one final little dash to indicate a separate thought within this chapter as we near the end of this chapter. Returning to Steve's hospital experience and Justin's middle finger salute for the staff there, when Mom finally spoke with the doctor who had performed the procedure, he was defensive at first. She politely explained to him the added difficulties in a hospital environment for those with disabilities and a nervous nature. When he realized Mom wasn't attacking him, the doctor softened. She hoped to inspire an improvement in his future bedside manner. They decided to trust him. Steve had a follow-up procedure a year later with him Steve had a follow-up procedure a year later with him, which went much more smoothly. The medical staff's lack of sensitivity to Steve's needs was disappointing, though not entirely surprising. It takes strength and courage to be caring, to exert the extra effort to be kind. Many people slide towards a certain numbness or indifference over time, especially when overworked, and expect so little in the form of sincere communication from daily life. It seems particularly American at this point in time, though I know it's global too. Yep, I'm feeling that for sure. Yes, I gravitate towards the soapbox, so I'll add that we could do with a greater abundance of empathy and a reinvestment in the idea of altruistic collective interests and a common good in our country and the world. I sense that many are ready for a better, more generous era too, and as mentioned, the psychics I follow say we're entering the beginning of a period of great rebuilding after an extended period of harmful selfishness and greed, a rebalancing. Even in my imperfections, I pray for the world almost every day that there be more love, light, courage, truth, honesty, peace, selflessness, empathy, understanding, generosity, mindfulness, and joy, and that I will better embody these qualities in my own interactions to be part of the lift, though I still often fail. It's beautiful how Spirit came through for Steve when he was in peril in the hospital, and it's not the only time they've helped us out. ... So, that's the end of chapter 5. How long of a chapter was that, and how long did it take me to read it? All right, we'll squeeze in chapter 6 and then call it an evening. Thank you for tuning in. Let me get a sip. Yes, it's whiskey, Teeling whiskey. First of the day, as Mom would say. So here's chapter 6, which is called True Miracle on Ice. Here we go. On Star Trek, the Egalitarian Federation of Planets and its fleet of starship officers are governed by the Prime Directive, a policy of non-interference in the social and technical developments of new alien civilizations they encounter while exploring the universe. Naturally, the Prime Directive is nobly violated on a fairly regular basis to assist worthy alien beings in imminent peril from villainous forces, otherwise there would be no show. In the same vein, or spirit, haha, I've long wondered if God and her associates have a similar policy of non-interference when it comes to us fragile human beings. Do angels have a Prime Directive too? And if so, do they violate it? And if so, do they violate it as often as Captain Kirk does? Do spirits ever, or often, cheat, bending the supposed hard rules of physical reality to help people out of a jam? Apparently the answer is yes. Back in 2015, at the tail of another long, cold Buffalo winter, which challenged our collective sanity as usual, Mom and Steve went for lunch in the western New York suburb of North Tonawanda, New York, where they reside. The flip side to harsh winters is that Buffalo summers are gorgeous and generally temperate. And yes, we talk about the weather here a lot. We also sit upon the Great Lakes, which may well make this region a future destination for many transplants as climate change makes other areas of the country and world far less habitable. A sad irony which has been predicted both by many meteorologists and psychics. Mom and Steve had a nice meal. Mom had leftovers, but she forgot them on the way back to the car, so they turned around. Initially, Steve didn't have his seatbelt on because it was such a short walk from the diner through the parking lot that it didn't seem necessary, but at the last minute, she told him to put it on, meaning the seatbelt for his wheelchair. Sorry, just adjusting. Mom and Steve are generally very cautious about spotting obstacles in the path of the wheelchair, but as Mom pushed him back towards the restaurant, she accidentally struck an unnoticed object at her feet, perhaps hidden in the snow. Or maybe one of the small back wheels of Steve's chair had turned and gotten stuck. Either way, Steve suddenly went flying forward, taking the wheelchair with him now that he was strapped in. Steve had time only to reach out with his hands to try to brace for the inevitable impact. From behind Steve and the wheelchair, Mom was essentially a helpless bystander. In fact, she thought for certain she would be pulled over top of the chair with him. Yet they weren't permitted to fall. Midway down, Steve felt a strong arm across his chest, which prevented him from crashing, but it wasn't Mom's. It wasn't anyone's arm because no one was there, or at least not someone they could see. Steve had the sensation of being suspended midair and later joked it was like being in the movie The Matrix. Once his wheelchair stopped falling forward, Mom heard a voice say, "Pull him up." With the handle still within her grasp, she uprighted Steve's chair without exertion or difficulty. It surprised her that it felt effortless, though I feel this implies she had assistance. Why not a group effort from both sides of the veils? Why not a group effort from both sides of the veil, since someone unseen had already prevented Steve from falling forward in the first place? The strong arm which kept Steve from hitting the pavement remained mysterious, but was absolutely real. He would have been badly hurt otherwise. No spirit claimed credit at the time or after, but some beautiful being or beings reached through in a moment of great need just in time. To me, that's what angels would do. Mom and Steve got in the car and stared at each other in astonishment. Steve said he knew he was in trouble. His arms were stretched out, and then suddenly he was floating in the air while spirits and Mom brought him up. Yes, it was a true miracle on ice. When Mom told me what happened the next day, I was happy and intrigued, though unsurprised. I was a little academic, perhaps. Clearly, it was important to acknowledge the significance, though a part of me feels that miracles are the natural state. Though maybe then they wouldn't be miracles from the human point of view if they happened all the time. Tail chasing such thoughts is easy. At heart, I felt the familiar, though sometimes infrequent, warmth of recognition that beautiful miracles do sometimes occur in this shaded world, and that magic is real and always possible no matter what other mischief may be afoot. Spirit stuff isn't science fiction. Some days the truth of it is so strong it's like my entire body is tingling. I love that feeling and wish I could stay in it all the time. Maybe that's what heaven is like. If so, please don't let that feeling ever become mundane or boring, for that would be tragic. Miracle exhaustion is definitely not a problem on Earth at present. Yeah. Okay, then there's a slight chapter break, and then one more page, and then we're done. Famous Irish psychic Lorna Byrne claims that we each have a guardian angel assigned to us at birth. She says that angels are made by God and their sole function is to help humans, and that they never incarnate as people on Earth. I don't know whether this is true. Sterling Psychic Medium from YouTube claims that the souls of animals, including pets, also originate from the angelic realm, and that they serve humanity voluntarily. This makes sense to me. Byrne says that each person's guardian angel is always with him or her, and that she can always see them, which is a part of her gift. Angels sometimes take on a gendered appearance as male or female, and other times they appear to Byrne simply as orbs of light. This makes sense, as angels are said to be made of energy, just like human souls. Angels and spirit guides don't generally get physically involved in our three-dimensional plane, but Byrne says exceptions are allowed when their human charges are in mortal danger, as in the case of Steve and Mom in the parking lot. Sterling additionally claims that one's birth angels absolutely intervene favorably if it is not one's predetermined exit point in time from Earth. Given what happened to Steve and Mom, plus other amazing interventions we've heard about, some of the miraculous stories in the Bible and other religious texts seem more plausible to me now as well. And again, I don't think of the Bible or other religious texts as the Word of God, though ideally religious writings from various cultures would inform and reinforce each other. The foundation of spirituality and religion is the supremacy of love, which is universal. That's the end of chapter 6, which was called True Miracle on Ice. So, yes, that's where we're going to leave it today. We'll resume with chapter 7, which is called Long Way Down. And thank you for listening to this book reading today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to, by chance, purchase the book and skip ahead, you can go to Amazon and look up Life is Magic. Or you can go to robfalgiano.com, my website, and there's a link to Amazon from there to order the book. That's how you can get it for now. What else? Yeah, I'll be back soon with another reading. If you would like to continue just to listen to the free readings on YouTube, that's of course you're most welcome to do that as well. Okay, take care. Thank you for listening. See you soon. Bye.